Hey everyone, welcome to GBE Reviews. I'm your host Joe, and today I'm going to be talking about the anime Gantz, or just Gantz in English. Gantz is a 26-episode, 2-season anime produced by Studio Gonzo in 2004. It's an anime adaptation of a manga that shares the same name. I'm going to review Gantz a little different than the other anime I've reviewed in the past because it's just so different from anything I've seen. Also, I'm going to go light into the spoiler territory. I usually try to do spoiler-free reviews, but I just don't think it's possible to do a solid review on Gantz without at least a little spoilers. Alright, with that in mind, the story of Gantz centers around Kei, a typical horny high school boy who one day runs into an old friend at the train station. As they're waiting for the train, a drunk homeless man falls onto the tracks. After a few moments, his friend decides he's not going to be able to get up on his own, so he jumps down to help him. He's trying to lift him and unable to do it by himself, so he calls up to Kei to help. Eventually, Kei decides that he's going to jump down and help. And as the two of them are struggling to lift the homeless man, there's about 20 or 30 people circled around the platform, none of which are volunteering to help. In fact, they're just shouting things like, "Get off the tracks," or "What are you, stupid," or "Just leave him, he's homeless." And it really shows you how cold and uncaring society is. It's actually a perfect setup for the anime in general. Alright, so at this point, they are eventually able to get the homeless man up and off the tracks, but by then the train light has come on and the train is starting to come down the tracks and get closer. So they decide instead of jumping off the tracks because there's not enough time, they're going to try to outrun the train and get past where it would normally stop so that they won't get hit. So they're running down the tracks, and unfortunately they're just not able to get far enough, so they're both hit by the train. It's pretty gory and bloody. Their heads go flying off, their bodies are completely mutilated. And what's really creepy and just another really good tone setter is there's a bunch of people that take out their phones and are taking pictures. There's one woman who's taking a picture of the head as it's flying by. It's absolutely twisted and really gives you a good sense for what this anime is all about. So I won't go into a ton of details, but there are some things I can say about the story that won't give away too much. So number one, Gantz is extremely violent. The gore is as grotesque as anything I've seen in any other anime, but it didn't really bother me too much because it was so overhyped and a lot of people told me, oh, it's going to be so bloody and crazy, so I had my expectations set really high. Perhaps it's also because I've been desensitized by decades of action movies, but I didn't think it was too bad, though if you're squeamish, you're definitely not going to enjoy it. Number 2. Gantz contains sex. Not hentai-level sex, but legit sex scenes that are far above and beyond what you'd see in a typical ecchi like High School DxD. This is definitely a mature anime for mature audiences. Number 3. Gantz is extremely psychological. There are tons of things to consider and think about, and the philosophy of killing because Gantz told you to is something several characters have a hard time accepting. Figuring out what Gantz's motivation is, and why they are assigned the task of killing aliens also becomes important as time goes on. There's an interesting philosophical debate about the nature of murdering by one of the sociopathic characters, where he argues that killing for Gantz and him killing are the same thing. Kei argues that he has never killed a human, but one thing I found interesting is that none of the aliens in the entire series ever attack first. It's definitely something interesting to ponder. Number 4. Gantz is tragic. People die, and I mean lots, truly lots of people die. And not just the first time, but they also die during the fighting of the aliens. They have friends and they have families, and Gantz doesn't give a shit about all that. Also, they don't die in pleasant ways for the most part. We're talking gut-splattering, tear-jerking deaths. More than likely, at least a few characters you like will die, so definitely be prepared. Number 5. Gantz has a mindfuck ending. This I won't spoil, but I finished it around 1 AM and I swear I yelled, "Holy shit, how did they tie that back together so well? Fucking A." I know a lot of people are unhappy with the ending and frustrated and deviated from the manga, but the way they tied everything back together to that first episode was, in my opinion, artistic. The ending is open-ended, and I've seen several people interpret it in several ways. I have my own opinions, which I'd love to discuss in the comments below, but I won't spoil it for those who haven't watched it yet because it's truly one of the best mindfucks I've ever seen in an anime. And number 6. Gantz doesn't have a concrete ending. You and 10 people will have 10 ideas about what Gantz's ending meant. I'm not saying it's good or bad thing, I'm saying it's complete but confusing and definitely leaves you thinking. It reminded me a lot of The Matrix. Lots of different theories exist on what everything meant. If anyone wants my personal opinion, send me a PM or discuss in the comments and I'll tell you guys what I thought. So the art in Gantz is dark. Considering the alien hunt takes place at night, a good deal of Gantz is shrouded in darkness. The scenes are dark and the character models are gritty and realistic. The gore is done well and in great detail. The character models are fairly unique considering they represent real people, though I will say the women tended to be on the very busty side. As far as the soundtrack of Gantz is pretty good. I found myself humming along to the silly calisthenics music Gantz plays before each round begins. I don't think there's too much to write home about. It has a mix of battle music, ambient music, and good voice acting. So let's wrap this up talking about the characters. Gantz is actually quite a bit of a character study on top of everything else. I found the evolution of Kei to be quite interesting. In the first episode, he's definitely an uncaring little shit, and never would have done anything to help that homeless guy if not for Kato. Throughout the series, he has severe transformations. I wish I could say something astute like it follows the 7 stages of grief after death, but I don't think it's that simple. I will say he gets angry sometimes, sad sometimes, and definitely has a strong bloodlust by the end. The other interesting male lead is Kato. He is Kei's friend from childhood and always looked up to him. Kei was strong and badass, and Kato was always chasing in his shadows. Throughout the story, Kato is always kind and soft and wants everybody to get out alive. His attitude is a good balance to Kei's, and they make a great team, with Kato being the leader and Kei being the enforcer. There's an awesome scene in episode 20 that shows a great juxtaposition between the two of them. I won't discuss the motivation because it's an epic level spoiler, but something happens that make both Kei and Kato have an intense emotional moment. After the event, Kato and Kei both yell at the same time. Kato a scream of remorse and anguish, and Kei a scream of animalistic rage and bloodlust. Kato is left in the background as Kei jumps over him, and the camera focuses on Kei as he rages and fucks up an alien beyond repair. It got me super amped up and thought, damn, that's some epic shit right there. Maybe that's the most badass thing I've seen in a long time in an anime. If I ever make a top 10 epic anime moments video, that's definitely going to be on the list. So the final main character is Kishimoto. She is a girl that Kei is in love with and Kato also cares for, though I don't think he's as explicit with his feelings. Given she had nowhere to go after dying, she ends up staying with Kei, which is awkward because she likes Kato even though Kei likes her. The animosity between Kei and Kato because of this is a major driver of several emotional scenes. I understood why she liked Kato, but there were a few lines she said that made me wonder why she chose him over Kei. I think it's probably because of the initial scene with her. Kato comes to her rescue when some of the Yakuza are trying to rough her up. It was a little hard to understand the emotion she felt towards Kei, perhaps a level of reverence or something. Either way, the trio I've mentioned are the main characters. Now don't get me wrong, there's tons of other characters. Most of them get a fair amount of focus during the Gantz scenes, and a few of them get some focus outside the Gantz scenes as well. I found the cast extremely diverse. Keep in mind, these aren't fighters, and they're just random people Gantz selects as they're dying. Among the members are a teacher, a grandma and grandchild, a male model, several members of the Yakuza, a biker gang, a female stalker, 2 sociopaths, a handful of high school students, and even a dog. Due to the diverse nature of people, you get to see the best and worst of humanity. The cast is diverse and you will end up feeling for many of the characters, which makes watching some of them die brutal deaths all the more difficult. Alright, so let's wrap this up. Should you watch this anime? So the kind of people who would like Gantz, aka the good. Would you enjoy a psychological thriller that focuses on the darker elements of life and society? Do you want a serious and mature anime that doesn't shy away from adult themes and truly earns its R+ rating? Do you enjoy a huge cast of characters you'll get to know who all come from diverse backgrounds and therefore have interesting interactions? So the kind of people who would dislike Gantz, aka the bad. Do levels of hyper-violence and sex make you uncomfortable? Do you dislike anime riddled with sadness and despair? Do you dislike when characters you like die, especially in brutal ways? Do you prefer a more straightforward story that isn't up for interpretation? One that doesn't have any open ending and where you completely understand everything that's going on. Alright, so in summary, I really enjoyed Gantz. I thought it was an excellent anime that did a lot of things right. I think it's really gritty and realistic nature. The fact that it doesn't shy away from some of the darker side of humanity really made it quite unique. Of course, the whole premise of murdering aliens and Gantz in general is pretty unique as well, so if any of that sounds appealing to you, I definitely suggest giving it a watch. If you're a little squeamish and you're worried about blood and gore, this one's pretty high up there. Granted, it's not as bad as everybody tells you, but if you're not into that kind of thing, I don't think you're going to like it. Well, that's pretty much it. Hopefully you guys found this review helpful. If so, click like and subscribe and share with a friend. You can also check out my other anime visual novel reviews and my OST reviews as well. I look forward to seeing you on the next episode of GBE Reviews. I'm your host, Joe, saying to you, Jamais.